Today's guest is Maggie Nielsen. She's one of the founders of Purse Strings, financial experts, and we know how important money is during and post divorce. I actually have a friend who is dealing with, I see Maggie, who's dealing with the beginnings of a divorce right now, who I just think I need to get my lawyer to figure out if it's worth the settlement that I'm doing. I'm not sure. And in my head, I'm thinking, your lawyer's not going to know. You need a financial professional. So perfect timing, Maggie. I'm so glad that we're meeting today, so I can talk to my friend later about it. But
Yeah, I'm
I was
excited to
gonna,
be here.
yeah, like before you even officially introduce yourself, like who should have a financial professional involved with their divorce?
Anybody who has money. I mean, like if you got dollars, it's like separating a business, you know? So you have to have a professional. And if you have a lawyer, they're great, but they're great at the law. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they don't understand finances and they don't always know pre-tax dollars, post-tax dollars, getting a new mortgage, how the house is going to work, your 401k today versus in 10 years, you know, and all these different things. And so you have to have them on your team. And they're really cheaper than having an attorney spend hours doing your finances because they have a much higher hourly rate. And even all your financial professionals would admit that they're cheaper. So it's a great benefit all the way around.
Yeah, and I did not have a financial professional involved with my case, and there was money involved. And later, when I went back for a modification, just speaking with a volunteer attorney, they were like, there's some issues here. But luckily you can go back and I did, but I think that things might have been approached differently had I had a financial professional involved with the case. So before we go on, Maggie, how about you officially introduce yourself and say who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm Maggie Nielsen. I'm a partner at Purse Strings, and so we're all about helping women be financially fearless. And so we provide a ton of free tools and resources to get the foundations and get the wheels turning. But when you're wondering, like, who can I go to? Who can I really trust? We have a vetted list of professionals who really focus on serving the female market. So you can find the CDFA, Certified Divorce Financial Analyst, money coaches, mediators, attorneys, anybody who need to help you in those financial transitions or transactions, we've got them all for you.
Okay, wonderful. I love finding resources, especially resources with lots more resources.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you mentioned a CDFA, a Certified Divorce Financial Advisor,
Analysts.
Analyst. Okay, can you
Yeah.
tell us some of the other financial professionals that might get involved with a divorce? Imagine that it's somebody who knows nothing.
Yeah. And so I would always start with the CDFA. I think they're a great place to start instead of an attorney. But you can also get an attorney. You might want to go the mediation route. We don't have them at Purse Strings, but a divorce coach can be really great to have on your team to help you kind of keep sane. And then having a mortgage professional who's really good. Sometimes they have a special designation called a CDLP, Certified Divorce Lending Professional, which can be really great because when you get into the nuance of getting a mortgage and how long you're getting alimony for or what money you have to your name, it's complex. There's nuances. So having somebody like that on your team can be really great. Um, and then maybe a therapist as well, which we don't
Mhm.
provide either, but I think that's an important part on your team. But really having that CDFA, attorney, mediator, and your CDLP are really great people.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason people don't even think about having a team is because it's like, this is going to be so expensive.
Yeah.
Can you address that?
Yeah, I mean, people, that is the biggest fear of is expenses. And of course, you don't want to drag anything out or pay more than you have to, but you also don't want to walk away like having regrets, not having the best financial standing, you know, because it's hard to go back and amend some of these things. And so that's the great thing about the CDFA is they are cheaper per hour, and that way you can kind of work with them, get your finances straight, and then go to the attorney and talk about what you're looking for.
Mhm.
Same with the divorce coach. Usually they've been through it, they know the process, and so they can give you some of those tips and tricks. So that way you limit that amount of time with your attorney, which is going to be your biggest expense.
Mhm.
So that really helps there. And then just making sure everything's thoroughly done in the process, because I know we hear too often people say how they rushed through the process and regret different things. And some of those finances can have long-term effects where it's like it'd be easier to slow down now than to either reopen up this later or
Mhm.
to work so hard to earn that money back, just through getting another job or something of that nature. Um, and so it can be expensive, but having all the right professionals do their expertise can really bring down the price.
Yeah, it seems like the opposite, like more people,
Yeah.
but cut down on the lawyer costs. I mean, that's what we talk to our people about is like we're way cheaper than attorneys. Attorneys' job is really just to translate your case into the law, be your ally and your advocate, communicate well, but not to be your therapist, not to be your financial analyst. Like all this other stuff, that's for other resources that I think people are not always aware are out there. So let me
Yeah.
ask you something else, considering that you are talking to an audience of people exclusively dealing with high conflict divorces and post judgment issues. A lot of times, people in these relationships have been seeing their ex as some kind of authority. And as they start to separate, their ex tells them what their rights are and encourages them not to use an attorney or let's not waste money. How do you deal with people who still feel convinced that their partner is the authority?
That's tough, and I do think part of that is through therapy, whether that be condition like regular therapy or a divorce coach, but really, getting yourself back and getting your power back and knowing, I am worth this. I am, starting on my own adventure now. He is not in charge of me or they're not in charge of me, and really trying to take that power back, which of course is much easier said than done.
Right.
But think about you. What do you want your future to be like? Step into your power. Um, and and really use that to kind of catapult you, because they have their own best interest in mind. And that's the other thing you have to remember. You got to put your best interest in mind. They have their best interest in mind. And so they're not going to be telling you things that are going to be benefiting you. And you just kind of got to remember that, and, make your own team. And so, mediation probably is not going to be the route. You need to get like a really good attorney and just accept the facts as they are. We're not even going to try there. We're just going to go straight to the law, and just really try to hold your power, which I know is hard, but build that community around you, either with you and your community. There's plenty of other divorce communities, even if there's something local, just to have more empowering people around you who get what you're going through, because your friend who's in this really nice marriage is not going to want your trauma dumps all the time, and she's not going to be able to relate, but there are other women out there who can, and just having them around you make you feel more secure and grounded is also really helpful.
Yeah. So something that you mentioned was that mediation isn't going to work. So I'm going to disagree with you because with
It might
our
not
people,
always work. Yeah.
no, 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 no. But for us, it's like a long process, but we feel
Yeah.
like one thing that makes mediation more likely to work is when you have leverage. So if
Mm,
you have, I feel like there are services that financial analysts can provide that can give you that leverage where you're hearing from your ex or soon to be ex or not so soon to be ex that this is what the story is. You know what I have. Let's not waste all this time going through the process. But when you have a really good professional working with you, you can use that because to us, mediation is basically a dress rehearsal for court. The
hmm
mediator is an officer of the court. They're supposed to be the voice of what the judge would generally rule on. They want to get you to agree, and a lot of times they don't have power, but they can help. And I know it did in my own case where the mediator was like, my ex was saying, I shouldn't have to pay child support if if I don't have a great relationship with my kids. And the mediator like, that is not going to fly.
Right.
So let's skip ahead and let's come up with a number. If that had been me dealing with him directly, he would have never listened to what I said, but he listened to the authority. So I feel like
Yeah.
having that leverage, like what are some things that financial professionals can do to provide that leverage, like services?
To provide the leverage, they can help you kind of understand all of your assets and really explain to you like what is actually yours. And so you can kind of hold that, stake in the ground of, we are 50-50. This is how either the legal rulings in the state work, or, because you were, let's say, a stay-at-home parent, you still have the rights to this money, which I know is a big argument of like, I earned it all, so it is all
Oh,
mine, which is not how it works. And so they can really give you some guidance on like what is actually yours, and then what is kind of above and beyond. What does the typical look like, which, we
mhm,
don't always fall in those realms, but to give you a sense of like what to expect and what you need. Because sometimes, if it's your first time doing it, you have no idea. I don't know what the state is normally does. You have your friends who tell you what they have, but
mhm.
you can't base it all off your friends and what their experiences were. So they can just kind of help you keep grounded on what's actually yours, what looks realistic, and what the goal should be on the outcome.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you have some kind of guide. So tell us about your guide.
Yeah, it's in, of course, the link in our bio. It's, the things to do before you mention the D word. And it's really kind of gathering some of that information, where the accounts are, the passwords, like for your bank accounts and stuff like that, starting to gather some of that information. So you can just start preparing, like, what would a divorce look like? Do we have the financial backing to get divorced or to live on my own? What is that going to look like? Because those are some of the big questions before you even approach getting divorced. Is like, can I stay alive, and fend for myself? And so you can just gather some of that information and meet with a CDFA before you even file for divorce, and just get a picture of like what this might look like.
Mhm.
What would your future might hold, and then you can decide, is this something I do want to go through with? Is this something I want to work through? That way you have a better understanding of what you're going to walk into before it all happens. And so we have that guide. It has a whole list of different things that you can kind of check off and kind of mark down, like, is this online? Do I have a paper copy of this? Where are these statements or these accounts? And then, just as a reminder, if your name is on those bank accounts, you can get access as well. And so if your partner's changed the password or not giving you access, you can go to that bank or email them and be like, yo, my name's on the account, I get access to that. And then whatever they're not sharing with, they'll subpoena down the road. But that way you can start gathering some of that information, which is going to be this first step. Your lawyer is going to be like, do you have all this information? That way you can be like, yes, it's all here and ready to go.
Okay, so in our cases, a lot of times they cannot get the information. Their ex in the relationship has been hiding assets,
Yeah.
hiding bank accounts and all that, so they can't get it. How do you deal with someone? Maybe talk about like when you know to get a forensic accountant. What's a forensic accountant, and how do you know when it's time to step it up a notch? Because our clients' exes are not cooperating.
Yeah, a forensic accountant can be a great person. They go through all the finances and really find where you're hiding the money. I know Tracy, the divorce money guide, was on here as well, and she's a great forensic accountant offering her services, but also kind of like a DIY version as well, because it can be pricey. Um, and so I think that is, once you meet with your attorney and kind of talk about your situation, that would be, something. Or if you're seeing some of those red flags, like there's reasons why they're not showing you the accounts. There is a lot of lying of, where they are or where the money's being spent. If you have some of those red flags come up, it is important to really go through that way. They're spending that family money. It's, again, your right too, and so you have to remember that, and kind of put up a fight to get into those finances.
Yeah. As you're saying, put up a fight, I'm thinking so many of people that we work with, they say, I'm conflict avoidant. I just want this to end. So I think I'm just going to settle. So I think that's my best decision. Common?
Yeah, I just, I'm not saying it's an easy process. You know what I mean? And that's why you do need your community and your support group to really lean on. But it's so much harder to go back and
Yeah.
change things later. And, you know, you got to reopen that can of worms. It's not going to be fast. It's not always a guarantee once those documents are signed. And so it's so important to slow down, because this is your future, and if that's, 250, $500,000 towards your retirement, that's a game changer.
Mhm.
It's not like you're fighting over some airline miles. If it's that, then maybe maybe we're, pushing things too far, but it's usually not. It's usually these bigger things where you got to think about, what do you want your future to look like, and really just take a breath, get your therapy, get your group around you, because it's so much harder to go back and do this again. And you don't want to do it again. You want to close the book and move on. Um, and so even when the going gets tough, turn to that community, because it's important to push through, to keep going, and not just let the other person win and defeat.
Yeah. As you're talking, I'm thinking of a title for this. It's like, get it right the first time.
Yeah. And it's hard to do, and I get that you want to get it done, but it's really not something you want to go back and open up later. And that's also another long, lengthy process. And so it's like,
Mhm.
well, maybe it's another year now, but it's not going to be 3 years again later. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so it's like, let's just push through and get this done. Um, but it's tough. It's tough. And that's why you need that community around you.
Yeah, and I think it all has to do with establishing a really solid foundation of your case. Because
Yeah.
when you do go back, it makes things a lot easier for a judge and all the judges thereafter. I'm speaking from my own experience, because they can look at an agreement or an order, and if the language is really clear and tight, and it shows what people were aware of at that time, it just makes everything a lot easier for a judge to know how to rule in the future.
Yeah, exactly. And just make sure, you're not signing anything that doesn't make sense to you. Make sure people keep stopping and explaining. Like, I don't care if you feel dumb or foolish or you're wasting time. Like, this is important to know. And so just really, like, if you don't understand it, do not sign it, because you need to understand it. Again, this is your future. And so I know, again, an attorney can be expensive with some of the stuff. So some of those foundations, like a divorce coach or a CDFA, can cover, just because they've done it plenty of times. This might be your first rodeo, and so just make sure that you're not signing anything that you don't understand.
Yeah, so what you're describing now makes me think of something that we do with our clients called taking strategic oversight of your case, and
Yeah.
basically realizing that this is an opportunity because you were in this relationship for however long, for whatever reasons that person became an authority, and
Mhm.
now's your chance, instead of repeating that same cycle with an attorney or professional and saying, I'm going to hire you, you take care of it. Like, you need to understand what you're doing, and what you're
Yep.
describing to Maggie is like something we see a lot, where people say, my lawyer just said to sign it. And we say, did you take a look at it? No, because I trusted them. You need to understand that everybody makes mistakes. This is your case. This is your life and
Yep.
your kids. And so it's so important to make sure you have guidance to ensure that you are proofreading, that you know what motions are up, like how
Yeah.
much your bills are, how people are billing you, like all that stuff, so that it's not a surprise. And a lot of times our clients' exes are also very predictable. So instead of
Yeah.
being like really scared to work with professionals, we're like, this is, like you said, this is what you can expect. Here's
Yep.
why. And we can calm down a little, knowing that you're working with people who really get it. And like you said, have done it many, many times before. As
Right.
long as they're comfortable, even though you probably feel really, not you, Maggie, but people listening
Yeah.
feel
Yeah. Yeah.
really overwhelmed right now, having that team of professionals will get you through it a lot less scathed than you normally would be.
Exactly. Yeah. Less scathed is a great way to describe it.
Right, right, right. So how can people find you?
Yeah, they can check us out. They can follow us here on Instagram, pursestrings.co. Otherwise, we're online at pursestrings.co. And we have, all our tools and resources and our vetted list of professionals there. And we also have a podcast, which I'm very excited. Our 100th episode is coming out Friday. And there's also a great story on that one with a woman who got out of her divorce by selling the diamond in her ring and getting it filled with a fake one, which was pretty incredible. And that podcast is called Women and Money, the shit we don't talk about, wherever you stream.
I just was looking at my calendar. I think I'm going to be on it in like a couple of weeks.
I think we have you on there. I got to go over the questions. It's on the
I
to-do
know.
list for later today.
I know. All right. Well, thank you so much, Maggie. This is great, especially for people who are really early in the process and freaking out. It
Yeah,
is so important to take that strategic oversight of your case and realize there are professionals out there who get it, who can allay some of that fear and overwhelm.
definitely. Yeah, it's time to step into your power. We got this. We got you. We got the right team for you. So we're here to support you.
Good. All right. Thank you so much, Maggie, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.